Welcome to PhotoshopUser TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to PhotoshopUser TV. I am Corey Barker. I'm here with RC Concepcion.
What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing?
And we are also joined by Mr. Pete Collins.
Hey guys, what's going on?
He's over there at the weather station, of course. We are back. We are sponsored by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, the fun people that bring you
PhotoshopUser magazine. Now, if you haven't taken a look at it, you really should. 10 issues a year, PhotoshopUser.com. Make sure that you go and you check it out online.
It's only one of the many perks of being a NAP member.
That's right, that's right. So what do you got going on this week? What are you doing?
I
saw some ring stuff and I'm like,
I got all kinds of things. I'm actually, it's kind of a 3D thing, but not really. No,
okay.
It's talking about parts of 3D. I mean, I'm not creating a 3D thing right from scratch here, but what I have is talking about wrapping textures on 3D objects and how you can control them here inside the program. So I've got a couple of rings here that I've created, just simple rings, and I've joined them together so they're kind of like intertwined with each other and casting shadows. And now I want to do apply some textures. I want to wrap them with a carbon fiber texture to make them look like carbon fiber rings in here. Mm-hmm. So I have here a carbon fiber texture. Just open this up. And it's a very simple texture. I actually found this on iStock Photo. And if you can, when you're looking for textures like this, search for seamless textures, because what it does is it allows you to do a repeating pattern when you tile it, and it will not look tiled. It actually will, overlap and actually look like it's one seamless pattern. So if you can find seamless, great. If not, you will have to try and work it to make it seamless. In fact, the way to do that, I'll show you, is, or even if here's a way you can test it to make sure it is seamless, is go to the filter menu and go down here to Other and choose Offset. And you'll notice you have the horizontal and vertical sliders. If I move these back and forth, and you'll notice what it's doing is it's offsetting the tiling of the pattern. And if it were not lined up, if it were not seamless, you would see a definite break in the pattern here. You would see definitely where the line is that the tiling is happening. In this case, I don't see it because it is in fact a seamless pattern. But that's how you would go ahead and check for that. Now, since that is a seamless pattern, and we're going to go back to my image here, I'm going to go and open up my 3D panel, as well as my properties panel, because these both work together. Whatever line item I have selected in my 3D panel, the corresponding properties show up in the properties panel itself. So I'm going to go and select one of the rings here, and going to go into you've got the various surfaces here that break down the 3D object, and the ring I actually created as an extrusion, and then I wrapped it around itself to bend it around to make it look like it's a circle. So we're going to modify the extrusion material, which is what I have highlighted here. And it's going to go into the properties, and up here at the very top we have a setting called Diffuse. And if I go and click on the small folder icon next to it, you see an item called Replace Texture. I'm going to go ahead and check on that. It's going to bring up this open dialog box, and we're going to go and locate that carbon fiber pattern that I found, or my seamless carbon fiber, and go ahead and click Open. And you can see it wraps around my object, but isn't looking like I want it to. It's actually kind of stretching the texture, and it's looking a little larger than I would like it to be, so I need to adjust it. And you might think, I'll go inside that texture file and just scale it down or something like that. You don't need to do that. What I'm going to do is go back and select Layer 2, which is the main layer for that 3D object. This is the main master layer, but then you go down here, you can select individual parts of your 3D object. I'm going to go back to the master one, and in the properties panel, we have this texture mapping setting. And you can see it's actually by default set to scale, so you can see whenever you would originally do it, it will actually be on scale and stretches it like that. So you want to actually change it to tile, because it is a seamless pattern. Tiling it will make it look better. So you can see it fixed it a little bit, but not quite. I still want to make it smaller. So I still want to edit how it's laying on this 3D object. So we're going to go back to that 3D extrusion material. So highlight Layer 2 extrusion material, back into that same diffuse window, the same one we just went in when I went to the Replace Texture. But this time I'm going to choose Edit UV Properties. It's the second item right here. And the cool thing about this is that this particular feature is live. So as I make changes, I can see the changes happening. So if I go over here in the UV scale and move this slider, you can see the size of the texture.
Oh, look at that. It's like a different weave. Almost.
Yeah, so I can make it larger or smaller. If I go in a smaller number, it gets much, much larger. I can go much, much smaller just by moving these sliders.
That looks pretty good right there.
So I have control over that. So I'm not modifying the original texture, but rather I'm changing how it's distributing itself around my 3D object. So I go there, make that changes, and then there I'm good to go, and now I can continue to edit, add my lighting effects like that. So that's really kind of just how you apply a texture, but not just applying it, because I know I've had people write to me and says, oh, I applied a texture and it stretched it just looked horrible, I didn't know what to do. That's what you do. You go in there, edit those UV properties, and you can modify its positioning and its scaling.
Corey Barker, where can more people find out about this kind of stuff?
We actually have a full in-depth course on 3D and CS6 over at Kelby Training.
So make sure you guys take a look at this. Now, obviously, I mean, these are small shows. We're doing this kind of stuff for, 10, 15 minutes at a clip. But if you want to follow this from start to finish, you want to make sure that you go to Kelby Training. Go to kelbytraining.com, take a look. There's a lot more information there. But let's get and take a quick break. When we come back, I've got a couple of things that I wanted to show you guys inside of Lightroom 4.1. And, Mr. Pete, you got some stuff coming up as well, right?
Yep.
All right, so stick around. We'll be right back.
I really believe that your photography is a reflection of who you are. In my posing class, you're going to learn a lot of things. How to pose a bride and bring out the best in her shape and her curves. How to photograph a groom, because many of us who may focus on the bride will ignore the groom. Getting your clients to mirror you. Mirroring, I find, is the best way of getting people to pose. I'm Jerry Gionis. Check out my class on the fine art of posing at kelbytraining.com.
Welcome back to Photoshop User TV. My name is RC. I'm here with Corey and Mr. Pete Collins. What's going on, Pete? How you doing?
Just hanging out here over in the weather station.
Rocking the
got my Cintiq going on over here.
Sporting the technology today.
Yep.
So, all right, well, what do you got for us today?
Well, for an upcoming Photoshop User Magazine article, Classic Effects, I had the editor ask me if I could do something about how to make objects look wet or underwater. So I started playing with how to create water droplets and other things on a surface. And the funny thing is right after I started playing with this, Corey puts up a post on Google Plus about how he creates water droplets. So it's kind of like we cross-pollinate through the air sometimes about what's going on.
But they're really kind of different. So, I mean, there's kind of two different approaches, but yeah.
They're definitely different. And that's the thing. That's what's so great about these layer styles, because it's all about getting in the layer styles, is to be able to show how you can adjust them to get all the different looks you want. So let me start out with, if I was going to create a water droplet, what would I need to do? Well, if I just come in here, and right now I've just got a round brush with a gray scale to it, gray color, about 18% gray. That's not going to do anything for me, but if I come in here, first of all, I know I'm going to want the water to be pretty much transparent. Well, I could drop down the opacity, but then any effects I do in the layer styles aren't going to show up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down the fill to about maybe 15%, just get a little hint of that color, because we want to keep a little bit of that color in there. But the difference between opacity and fill is going to still let you see all the layer styles that you put on an object right there on the layer completely. Whereas if you drop opacity, everything gets knocked out. Now I'm going to double click on the layer to bring up the layer style palette. And what I'm going to want to go to is I want to go to bevel and emboss. And right away I hit it, and it starts to give me something that looks pretty good. It almost starts to look like, it's not quite water, it almost looks like a semi-transparent gel that's been flattened a little. Well, so what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to look at these layer styles and the different things I can add to this. And one of the first things I'm going to look at is gloss contour. And see, this area down here, the shading and stuff, can be daunting for somebody who first comes in to look at the layer styles, because it's just like, I've got too much going on here. I'm freaked out. I'm just going to say cancel and go do something else. Well, if you understand what these do, it really becomes a powerful tool for you to be able to change the look of whatever you're working on. Gloss contour is simply going to act like that. What was flat before it now has edges to it. And according to whichever one I choose, it's going to give me a different look. And the light is going to bounce off the edges of that gloss in a certain way. So just by changing these things, I get a different look. And sometimes I get kind of funky and freaky. But the nice thing is I can even come in here and double click on that and make my own contour. Now this looks pretty good, but I actually want to give it a little bit more of a rounded edge. But that gives me kind of a funkiness. It's too bright. It looks kind of like caulk or toothpaste. Well, one of the things I can do is come in here. This little circle icon represents where the light is going to hit it. And I can start moving this around, and it's going to show you a different look to the lighting. As a matter of fact, I don't really like how that does, so let's jump back over to something like that. That's going to look a little bit better. And just by simply moving the angle of the light, I get it to look pretty good. But what I want to do is come in here and add an additional contour to it that's going to allow you to give it just that extra little bump that's going to help sell the image. And once again, you can come in here and play and look at these different edges and see how it works out. But with water, we're going to keep a nice smooth edge to it. So I'm going to go with that. Okay. So that looks pretty good, but I don't really like the harshness of this edge over here. So I can come in and play with the shadow mode and lighten it up. We've got total control down here. Highlight mode is going to represent how bright that white edge is going to be, sort of like your specular highlights on your water. And shadow mode is going to represent how dark the shadows are going to be inside that water. And because water is not going to cast a lot of shadows, you really want to drop down your shadow mode so you get just a little bit, so it's going to interact with the surface, but not too much. And opacity is the same thing. You can either have soft lighting or harsh lighting. And the nice thing is you can get in here and play with just those simple areas in the shading and get completely different looks. Now, that's where I want you to start with. And the thing is, once you start playing with this and messing with it, you realize that it doesn't have to be just water. You can start to come in, you can do color overlay. As a matter of fact, I'm going to come over here. I've got some styles already set up. And I'm going to go grab something like this. And what you'll see is I've got to reduce this just a little. Let's drop down the bevel and emboss. We want to take the size down. We want to take the depth down.
Look at that.
But what you can do is you can start playing with these different edges. And I'll bring that over here. Once you get something you like and get the look you like, it's not like it's static. If I come in with more brush, it's going to automatically look like whatever I've already been doing. Let me show you this example. Here's where I started to get bloody on me. I did the same kind of stuff, but I simply now, because I've got all the layer styles that I plugged in there that I liked set up, now when I draw, it's automatically going to act like every brush stroke is water.
See, and I think that's the part that I think is interesting about that one section, because what happens is a lot of the times people ignore like large blocks of what's happening inside of Photoshop, and it's like you'd be surprised as to how much you can get, especially when doing drop effects and shadows and things like that. You'd be surprised how something that you're going to try to do later, you're going to go, well, that doesn't look realistic. I'm going to have to dodge and burn it or create an adjustment there. You'd be surprised as to how much of that you can do right inside of the style if you just kind of play with the contour portion of it. So
well, and this is where it gets really fun, because now that I've created that style, I've done all the different effects to it, I come in here and play, and it lays on top of each other. If I don't like it, I come in with my layer mask, and I can knock out some, and it's almost like it's really there, and I'm mushing the liquid around or pushing it around. It's acting almost like liquid, and so that's a fun way to create some great effects.
I think you both said the key words there, and that's playing around with it. You know, it's how do you arrive at these effects? And I know it's how I do it is I just go in there and play around. I just move sliders around and see what comes about. And then if I see something that looks pretty cool, I'll kind of take it in that direction. But you got to start somewhere. You just got to go in there and start goofing around with it.
You've got to give yourself a challenge or something that you want to do. How do you create water? How do you create liquid that's going to look like something that you can then use? Because a lot of times we'll make something that we can only use once. Yeah. Something like this, we can paint in water or gel or whatever, wherever we want.
You combine it with custom brushes, and you have that many more possibilities.
Yep.
And one of the key things is, of course, looking at real water drops or water effects. You know, find photos of water sitting on, you know, a park bench or something like that. Just look at it, how it's reacting to the light in the environment, and you can start to think about, you know, that could be a cool overlay layer style, and I can probably achieve that effect. So it's, you know, looking at reality and referring to reality can help you along and really achieve that effect.
I feel like I'm surrounded by creative, artistic stuff. I think it's really cool.
Well, let me finish up real quick right here. And the nice thing is you've created that gel. Now think about using it for type or something. You can come in and create like gel and then you just simply grab the effect that you've had before, and you can create your own kind of gel fonts or anything like that. So there's a great way to take what you just learned and apply it to text or something like that.
Very, very cool.
It's so astounding.
Anyway. It is.
As we move on, I think we're going to switch gears in from Photoshop to Lightroom, I think. Our RC's got a little Lightroom.
Yeah, it's just, there was, if you guys didn't see, there was a new release that came out, 4.1, that has a couple of things that I think are very interesting to photographers, and it's something that you probably should take a look at. So I wanted to kind of share those out here. So I'm inside of Lightroom, and I have a whole bunch of DNG files. And one of the first things that they came out with is this entire HDR 32-bit diff support. What does that mean, right? Well, when you're working with a series of images, what you can do here inside of Lightroom, you can only do this. Now, keep in mind, you have to make sure that inside of your preferences, when you're going to external editing, your file format has to be TIFF. So this information that sits right here needs to say TIFF. If it says PSD, then you have a couple of extra steps. But for the most part, let's assume that you have that there. And what I want to do is I want to take these files and I want to merge them into a 32-bit file. So I'm taking a series of different exposures and I'm making this super exposure, HDR, if you will. But now you have the ability to kind of move them around. Now, inside of here, I've merged it into HDR Pro. Just for the interest of time, I already have it all set up here. And you'll notice that I have a 32-bit image. If you were to do any kind of tone mapping, that's where you would go. You would go into 16-bit. But I'm going to leave it at 32-bit. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my white point preview like that. Now, once I have that set, I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. It's going to take this file, it's going to merge this file, and what I'm going to do with it is I'm just going to do a save and close. I'm not going to do any kind of adjustments whatsoever on the file. And we're going to take that file and we're going to move that file inside of Lightroom. And that's the point. What used to happen before is when you used to have 32-bit files, it would take all of this information and it wouldn't do anything with it. You couldn't open it, you couldn't manipulate it, you couldn't play with it. So now I have this big file here. I'm just going to do a save. It saves all of this information. You'll see that at the very, very top, it's saving it as a TIFF. It's 32-bit. I'm going to close it. I'm going to go back into my image, and inside of here, I'm going to have now a file that I can use that has all of this information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here in my catalog. I'm going to go all the way down, and I'll show you where that file is. So here's that TIFF image, right? Now, that's a 32-bit file. I'm going to go and grab this, and I'm going to bring this right back into this collection that we have here called 32-bit example. I just want to kind of keep that organized. Now, there's the file. Let's just say that this is a comparable file right here, right? So that's the one file that we have, and then here's the 32-bit file. If we look at them side by side, right? Not too bad. Now, inside of here, if I go to the DNG file, just a regular DNG file, and I go to the develop module, inside of the develop module, I can go ahead and bring my exposure. See, my exposure goes up to about +5. Right, so you have about 5 stops of exposure in this area. Now, take a look at the 32-bit TIFF. The fact that you can read it is great, but what's even better is if you go to the develop module, you go over here to this exposure, you get to 5, and you haven't even gotten halfway. So now you can really pull out any information that you want. Take a look. I can go up to 10 stops. Now, obviously, that's a little bit excessive, but the fact that you can kind of move all of this information, right? There's all of this detail available in this image, lets you grab and start toning something where before individuals would kind of worry about working with HDR and working with something that looked a little bit excessive. Now by having these files, you can go ahead and go in here and start making some corrections and some changes that are a little bit more realistic in nature and give you kind of a nicer shot. So that's one thing that I think that's really cool.
So basically, you've almost like you've supercharged your negative, whereas before you were limited to this big of a negative. Now you got all this to play with, but it acts just like a regular image.
Absolutely.
And that's huge.
Absolutely, absolutely. Here's the other change that I thought that was really good, and it's not really that much to it, but it's something that I think that's very important. I have a whole bunch of images, and in Lightroom 4.1, in Lightroom 4, you had the option to create a book, right? Mm-hmm. And normally, you would go and you would create this book via blurb, right? And that was okay. It was okay. It's not bad. I like blurb. It's okay. But I prefer to have a choice. And I think that a lot of people wanted to go with choice, and I think choice is good. And before, all you had was a PDF. Now, you have JPEGs. So let's say, for example, I like to use MPix whenever I print stuff, right? MPix sells books. What if I want to send it to MPix? I can just switch over here to JPEG, set up all of my stuff, take my JPEG quality, bring my quality to 100, set up my profile, and this exact same book that I have, this entire layout, which I'm pretty excited about. I might actually just send this out and actually get it printed.
Have you sent it out?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah,
so I think
good.
export book to JPEG, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to call this folder to MPix. Click on that, and I'll call it book 1. And I'll save it, and now it's going to take all of these files and it's going to merge all of this layout, and all I have to do is take the file, upload it to MPix, and I'm good to go. Not bad. I mean, it was like these 2 small changes, but I think that the changes that they've added are really, really good.
It's just making it way too easy. You know, a few clicks and you're there.
And you're done. But anyway, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a contest, we've got some giveaways, and a bunch more stores.
All right.
Stuff. Stick around.
Yeah.
Have you been looking to take your photography to the next level? Learn from some of the world's top pro photographers and instructors? At kelbytraining.com, that experience is only a few clicks away.
Hey Jason, I'm glad you joined me today on Kelby Training. We're going to be getting some great motocross action. Guys are going to be flying over my head. Jason, we're going to be using high-speed sync and speed lights to get some great action.
Whether on location or in studio, our instructors teach you some of the most sought-after techniques, giving you a first-hand look at their work step by step. It's unlimited one-on-one training, giving you 24-hour-a-day access to hundreds of exclusive classes.
Jason, we had a great class today. I hope you learned a lot with our speed lights and high-speed sync action. Remember, KelbyTraining.com is a one-stop shopping for great learning, great photography classes. We'll see you next time.
Experience a class on KelbyTraining.com. Subscribe today. Visit KelbyTraining.com for more information.
Welcome back, PhotoshopUser TV.
So.
And we're just looking at each other like, who's going to take it off now? I'm like,
We're back on. We're live.
oh, there you are. Hi, that's where you are. You're there.
There you are. No.
But anyway, so we have a contest, but before we do that, I wanted to kind of show you what the book looked like, right? So we exported it out. There's the folder that I have, 2 MPEGs. Dinosaur World. I went to Dinosaur World.
I saw those pictures that you posted.
I was pretty excited about that.
Very nice.
But anyway, so here we have this one section, right? So here we have book 1. I'm just going to show you guys real quick what it's going to look like. Front and back cover to the book. And there's the individual spreads. There's 1 page, 1 page, 1 page, 1 page, 1 page, 1 page. That was actually just off coming back from the Google Plus conference. So that's another page. So it looks like it's going to be pretty good, right? Grab all the stuff, send it out. Now, at that point, all I need to do is just kind of go over to the MPEG side. There you have your books. You're pretty much up and running.
And they'll turn that stuff around really quick, too.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. We'll probably show it in the show. I'll show you guys what the book looks like when we're all said and done. But contest time.
On to giveaways. It's not really a contest. It's more just, some giveaways. It's almost like throwing your name in the box and we'll draw a name. But what do we have to give away? Actually, in the last show, if you were watching, Matt mentioned the On1 Perfect Effects, and we have a copy of it right here to give you. This is a really cool collection of effects. And as Matt mentioned, you can go and download a light version of it for free to try it out, but we have the full version right here just for you.
Very cool.
You lucky winner. Also, creating DSLR video. This is Richard Harrington's latest book on using your DSLR to get great video and editing techniques in there. So we love Rich Harrington. He's a very, very cool videographer out of D.C. And you actually visited his studio.
Yeah, that's right. DC. Yeah, I was out watching the hustle and bustle of his studios over at Red Pixel.
And he's crazy busy guy.
He keeps busy. He keeps very, very busy. And last but not least, give me this book. I'm going to do it. Photoshop, Down and Dirty Tricks for Designers. Now, this book is a phenomenal compendium of Photoshop tips. See, I had to. You won't? I will, dude. I will. Listen, if you want to know how to make some really, really cool design techniques for photographers and designers alike, this is the book that you need. You absolutely need this, but one of you guys is going to win it for free. Make sure you go to kelbytv.com/PhotoshopUserTV. Find the episode, leave us a comment, tell us what you think, and one of you guys is going to win this giant bundle. Thank you so much to All One Software. Thank you so much for PeachPit and Kelby Media Group for producing the books. But
much.
I think that pretty much wraps us up for today.
I believe so.
So anyway, thanks so much, guys, for stopping by. Mr. Corey Barker.
I appreciate it. Thank you again. All right.
Mr. Pete Collins. Pete is neat. Collins.
Pete,
Oh, wait, can the camera see this?
Shameless promo. Look at
yes,
that. Pete is neat.
Oh.
As he knocks half the
It's just a
studio
computer.
down.
Don't you dare drop that Cintiq.
Yeah. No.
All right.
Do whatever you have to. Just don't drop the Cintiq.
Save
But
the
anyway,
Cintiq.
stick around. We'll see you guys next week. Take care now.
All right. Bye-bye.